Obaidullah Baheer is adjunct lecturer at Transitional Justice at the American University of Afghanistan. He joins me now live from Kabul. Ubaid, great to have you here with us on TRT World. How likely is it that something concrete is going to come out of these talks?
Thank you for having me. I guess one of the major problems with every time the world has engaged with the Taliban is the unrealistic expectation we attached to the outcome of such meetings. Currently, these are very sporadic. As you mentioned, this is the first meeting of this process, though this is the third, but it's the first being attended by the Taliban. However, one thing is positive that at least the world has realized that no conversation on Afghanistan can happen or be meaningful unless the Taliban are central to that conversation. On the other hand, we have the issue of the civil rights and the violations by the Taliban of those. The Taliban have reiterated that these are internal issues. I just believe that this process, for starters, it's designed to build confidence with the Taliban. It's designed to alleviate the economic difficulties that the Afghan population are facing, especially with the poppy cultivation ban, which is a major step by the Taliban at detriment to the economy of Afghanistan. And then there is the conversation of the frozen assets, the foreign reserves, and the banking restrictions. So those are important conversations that need to be happening. And hopefully they can incentivize the Taliban to actually have conversations and dialogue with civil rights groups within the country. And even if this is an internal issue as per their claims, it has to be addressed, or a process needs to be initiated within the country to address them.
Okay, so there are two things here. A, what the Afghan public wants, and B, is what the international community wants. I wonder whether or not they align. Do you think what the Afghan public wants is the same as what the international community wants at this point?
I mean, ultimately, the Afghan people want economic security. They want their fundamental rights. They want a more stable government. They want a future, which is pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human right. The international community, very often, it's less about international ideals or the international community. It's more about responding to its own constituencies. Every government is trying that their voters aren't upset with the policy they take towards Afghanistan, which is currently projected as this regime, which is unique in the world when it comes to some of the human rights violations that are happening. However, there is a center point. The center point is that economic stability is going to lead to further security. Further security is going to lead to hopefully political spaces opening up. And ultimately, I'm a very firm believer that unless change is organic, unless change happens within the country, unless it's grassrooted, we as activists within the country are having conversations with the Taliban. We're pushing them on national media. We're pushing them in meetings. And this just needs to increase in volume. The Taliban's attitude 1 year ago, 2 years ago, isn't the same attitude that they have towards us, the activists, anymore. And hopefully there's more and more improvement. Ultimately, if they want their rule to last longer, they'd have to give in to the people. And the people want what is inalienable to them as rights, which is something the international community recognizes as well. However, one thing we've realized is that shaming the Taliban, pressurizing the Taliban doesn't work, because you cannot isolate the Taliban without isolating Afghanistan. You cannot put sanctions on the Taliban without putting sanctions on Afghanistan. So the fact that they are the de facto regime means that the hurt is felt by the larger population, which doesn't have the capacity of handling any more pain. So there has to be a humane way, and the humane way is pragmatic engagement, is talking about these fundamental, non-political, controversial issues to begin with, and hopefully lay the grounds for some trust to build, to eventually incentivize the Taliban into sitting down with their own people and solving issues that have to be solved from within the country. We saw that imposed solutions for 20 years didn't work for Afghanistan. Ultimately, unless the urban and rural population of Afghanistan have the security, have the support that they need, we won't see change. And change is what we need at this hour.
Obaidullah Baheer, thanks very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.